Oh, you can hear that?
Cool. Of course you can hear that. Hey, we're live anyways. All right, so I think we might pick up a viewer or two from your post, but what's more important today is that we just get this session recorded so that we have something we can post for people to come back to, right? Because I think the hardest part of doing this is finding time around the world for everybody that works. It's impossible. So I'm gonna just state the topic. What we're gonna be talking about today is coachability and learning new techniques, giving you some ways to overcome obstacles, whether you have a new coach or you have an old coach, and the criticism in the court or off the court, whatever, may be impeding your ability to actually learn your sport and advance like you would like to. And or there's some new technique that is slowing down or actually taking away from your performance because you haven't fully been able to adopt it the way that the coach is looking for, or maybe it's just not working in the big scope of things, which also may happen. I've been there as a pro. So I'm Ryan J. Owens. I played for Team USA for a few years. That's where I met Therese Crawford. Therese, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Therese Crawford. I played professional volleyball for 10 years. I played on the national team for almost 10 years. Before that, played for Hawaii, went to national championship, and now have started Connect with Your Gift. So that's an organization where I take what I learned from all of those experiences and help people and mentor and help people to realize the things that are hindering them and help them to reach their goals.
Fantastic. And I am actually running this podcast, Beyond Athletic, that you see down here at the bottom, or at least I hope you see it. And if it's not up there, maybe it'll pop up. But through Beyond Athletic and elite sports students, one of my goals is to take people like Therese and others and really just connect them with a bunch of athletes who are looking for education. And so what Therese is doing is amazing. So go check out Connect with Your Gift on Facebook. But let's jump into it. So I think one of the biggest things that happens is that when we're trying to learn new skills, let's go through this together. And I mean, talk from experience. When you're trying to learn a new skill, whatever or technique for a skill, what you're trying to do is basically make an enhancement, right? You're trying to take something you already know how to do. There's a foundation for it already been set. And now you have to build upon it, right? You have to, because that skill is probably used in multiple situations during your sport, or it's just used in one. Maybe there's just a little bit of a tweak and now it's a better way. Like for instance, with USA Volleyball, I remember when it came in the gym and they were just like, all right, we've been blocking, we've had our hands up the whole time above our heads, and now they're going to be down here near our ears. Okay. And oh, by the way, like a few months later, now instead of like keeping them up and dropping them after you see something happen, like a set happen, we actually want you, and if this happens, your hands just go down and you go. And it's like these little things, they seem tiny, but in actuality, because you've done them thousands of times, they become difficult. So what do you have to say about learning, a technique through enhancements if you are trying to learn something new? So we're not even getting into maybe this is a new coach, but it's just something new for your technique.
Right. I think that the main thing is to come from the perspective of recognizing that you already have that base. I think it's imperative that you understand that is not that someone's expecting you to be something that you're not. You're getting hit with a new technique. Nobody's expecting that you already know how to do it. So it's no pressure. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to master something or to right away. When somebody comes with a new technique, it's just something to try. I mean, usually the coach, it's not like it's something that he, like in your case, what you were talking about, it's not something that he is 100% sure is going to work. He's trying it out on you, something that I think might work for you, something that I think might help you. So if you come from it from the perspective of this works or not does not define whether I'm a good player or a bad player. I'm already a good player. This is only going to help me get better. If you understand that from the beginning, anything you can be really open to try new things, because it's not something that's going to determine whether you're a good player or you're a bad player, whether you can go further or you can't, or all of that pressure that we sometimes start to get in our head and start to get mental about it, about something
Yeah.
that's as simple as a technique.
Yeah. And I mean, I think what's really important for people to do is you want to deconstruct everything. I think this is one of the reasons why I love Tim Ferriss and others like him. Chris Gilliboo, who I think he wrote like the $100 Traveler or something. I can't remember what it is. I'm going to link it though on the YouTube description. Basically what they do is they take bigger ideas and even smaller ideas and they just deconstruct them into their most simple form. And so if I deconstruct what you just said, Reese, I'm going to say that you just have to, first of all, you have to be open. You have to be open to change. And to be open to change, it just means that you have to realize that where you are and what you know is so small compared to where you will be and what you will know, but there will always be this knowledge outside of what you already know. And for a coach, it's the same, right?
Right.
And so, like you said, we're their guinea pigs. They're not, most coaches, I'm going to go with most on this, right? Most coaches aren't just going to try stuff out on you because they feel like, oh, this might work. Most of them are going off of some empirical evidence, right? Some other coach has done it, players are doing it already, whatever.
Right.
So if you're talking about one of the things I think you alluded to there was you have to be confident in the fact that you have some kind of base, you already can do this skill, and you have the potential to learn this new skill.
Exactly.
Where I've seen some athletes give up, and this is just mine, and I think if you have any, please throw them in there. When learning something new, whether you're open or not, you're to some degree we're all open because we show up to training, right? So right there, we're kind of open. I think that we have to say to ourselves, I'm not just going to try this skill 20% of like my effort. I'm going to give 100% of my effort to try and learn this new, not skill, but technique, this new little tweak on whatever skill it is. I'm going to try and learn it to my best. And how I can do that is by trying to always get feedback from my body, like paying attention to what I'm doing. And if the coach says that was good, then I feel, okay, how did that feel? Like the coach always talks about, right?
Right.
See yourself. If you just had a good action and I just said like that was part of the process, that was within my terms of the process for getting this skill done, I think that was great. You have to kind of take a mental snapshot, right? And go, okay, mental snapshot, rewind, play that again. And the next time you do it, you try to do the same thing. What are your takes on how we can not get stuck in giving up too soon on learning these new tweaks?
Well, I want to go back to what you were saying about being open, because what I realized when I was playing and what I've watched, I've done, it's like I would have the opportunity to do hundreds and hundreds of case studies throughout my 10 years of playing, seeing the best, seeing the elite, seeing the ones that were successful, seeing the ones that weren't successful, seeing the ones that failed, that were cut from teams. I got to see all of this. And what I found in my personal experience, I could add to the case study, let's say. So what I found is that athletes that are very successful don't have a problem. And what I found with myself, I had no problem listening to a coach's new idea. It didn't mean I was going to change it. I listened to everybody's ideas, and it wasn't a problem. Some I was able to change and I actually used. Some I went in one ear and went out the other. Not that I didn't try them. I tried all of them. But if they didn't work, it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't that I stuck to having to do it. But that came from a confidence in me. That's what the best athletes do. The ones that are confident and have no question about their ability, they don't have a problem when a coach tells them to start doing something they never tried before. They try it because they don't have to get defensive. They already know who they are. They've already proved themselves to themselves. They have nothing to prove to the coach or anybody else. A lot of times with a player that is in a new situation, jumps a level, goes from college to professional, goes from high school to college, goes from one professional level to another professional level, they already see themselves as less than their peers or their coach. Usually at the highest level, the athletes see themselves equal with the coach. Not in a respect level, coach is still a coach, but as in ability level. He's a great coach, I'm a great player. So they don't have a problem with trying. They don't feel intimidated by the coach. They already know what they can do. This coach knows who I am and what I can do. If he wants to try something new, that's fine, but I've already established myself as a player. So when someone from a lower level goes to a next level, and they have a coach trying to tell them what to do, well, they already feel intimidated because they feel like they're not at the level that they're supposed to be playing at. What you need to know, and in order to be open to receive this criticism, what you need to understand is that coach took you because they knew you could play at this level. They didn't take you because they saw potential in you. Okay? Most coaches at a professional level are not taking you on potential. They're taking you for who you are, and they're expecting you to do what they saw you do either in a video or in previous games. Now, that you can get better, sure, wonderful. But they didn't take you based on who they hope that you could be. No coach can do that. There's financial repercussions for that. They can't do that hoping that you're going to be a superstar. No, they took you for who you are. So when you go in that position, drop all of that stress of thinking that you're supposed to, now you're at this level, you have to play at a higher level. No, you need to be who you are. And then here's the opportunity that this coach is going to be able to bring some new stuff to you and you can get better. Do you understand? That'll allow you to be open. If you don't have that mentality, you can't be open because you're already going into the situation feeling intimidated, feeling less than, and you can't receive information because that information further, if you're not good at it, is going to tear you down further. Then you're going to try and figure it out why you can't do it. Then you're going to start thinking about how you're not in this, now I have to try and be something that I'm not, and it can become a mess, a mental mess. No, you have to recognize that you're there because you're good. That's why they brought you. They brought you for who you are, not for something that they imagined you to be. They brought you for who you are. Now is an opportunity to get better. That's all. Yeah. That's all. It's just an opportunity.
I like what you just said, especially there at the end. It kind of summed up a lot of it really well, which is now is an opportunity to get better. And before we move into the criticism part, from coaches and how you can perceive that and use it or not use it, and whether it's a new coach or an old coach, I definitely want to wrap up on the coachability part in terms of learning these new techniques, because this is a stumbling block for a lot of people. And I think that if you have some actionable steps, you can learn these things really well. And especially if maybe, criticism from coaches isn't going to be an issue for you. Maybe you take criticism really well. Maybe you're like stone hard, like some of these Serbs that I'm around every day here in Serbia, because you've been used to it. But regardless of that, I think that if you take what we've already said, you just recognize that your ability is already there to perform these skills, or else you wouldn't be on the court.
Right.
You have to, and that's where you're going to pull your confidence from. And you can even say that to yourself, like, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to do it this way yet. So I just have to be open to it. And like Therese said, there's so many people out there that have been super successful in their careers because it's not like they're bending over backwards to create change around every single corner. They're just looking to enhance whatever they do well already. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, they tried it and they're on with it. So I'll give you an example. I was in Greece. I was in a training and the coach wanted me to I had to get off the net. I had to transition from one action to another action. And I had to turn a completely new way. And I was like, how in the world, how is that even possible? Like that literally, it makes no sense. How am I supposed to do this? And I struggled with it that whole training. And I remember getting resentful and angry and just so frustrated because I was trying it and he kept saying, no, it's not right. And even when I would try it, then I would do what I told you. And I would say, all right, you know what? I'm going to try it, but I'm going to half it. I'm just going to kind of go through the
Go through the
motions and try
motions.
it.
Yep.
And then I called up my coach at the time, Hugh McCutcheon, and I said, you know, like, what do I do? This is nuts. And he said, all right, before I even tell you whether or not I agree with you, it doesn't even matter if I agree with you or not. Here's what it is. You have a coach. The coach wants you to do A. You have to do A. And if you're in training, you do A until training is over. Now, when it comes to a match, you know, and he was speaking specifically about that moment where a coach is really getting into you and saying, no, I want you to do it this way. You try and do it that way, the best of your ability at that point. But let's say you're scrimmaging, you're getting into matches, things like that. You have to do what works for you. And if you can trust in the process, and this is another thing that I learned from Hugh McCutcheon, trusting in the process just means that while you're learning something, you trust that that's going to help you. So you do it to the best of your ability. And then if you do it enough times, honestly, when you're playing, this is like I spoke with a player recently, Reese, and she was like, I'm thinking about everything I have to do on the court. And I'm like, hey, we know how to play volleyball. How many hours have we trained to play volleyball? Well, when training is over in the match, you just do. And so I was overloading myself because of that training session in the match the next day. And I was trying to do it, and it threw off my entire game. Because why?
Exactly.
Because I let it mess with what Therese said, my confidence. I let it mess with everything, because it's just like this unraveling of everything that you kind of are.
Right.
So just one more feedback way. I think you have to keep your feedback loops tight when you're learning new skills. And that can mean you bring in your own video camera to see yourself doing it. And then you can say, like, for instance, you know that if the coach says something to you, like that was right, you can hold up your hand before, like right after that action. So you know on camera, okay, that was when the coach said this was good. So let me go through that. And or you just have a really good feedback loop with the coach after a certain action. You say, is that what you were looking for? So, but if we were going to talk, do you have anything more on that before we move to criticism?
No, I would agree with you. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. So, all right. So you have this thought process about techniques and how it can enhance you as a player, right? Now let's talk about what happens when you are being criticized. You know, you hear about these famous stories, right, Therese, about coaches who are super tough on players, screaming at them or throwing things at them, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
There's varying degrees of criticism and this kind of intensity, like varying just intensities of it. But like you were saying, how do we, when we look at criticism from a coach, I think the overarching theme with criticism is that it's a way to improve yourself, right? So this is a way to improve some part of you that maybe or maybe not you don't see. You know, you don't even see it because you are you, and the coach's job is to bring out the best in you and the team. So sometimes they have this plan and maybe they don't share it with you. Some coaches might think, right, a player needs to be pushed a little more, or this player, maybe I need to just like get in there and get hands on because it's the only way they learn, or this player, you know, whatever. So if we were going to define the types of criticism that you've seen over your career, and I've seen over my career, because I know they're aligned, what would they be? And of course, I'm talking about like positive, negative, or just kind of like a basic. It's not neither nor.
Right. This is going to be, it's going to seem like I'm going outside the topic again, but I have to keep going back to your perspective, because now, and when I was most successful in my career, I didn't see a coach's critique as criticism. Do you understand? I saw it as an opportunity. Every coach that came in, and they could be new coaches. I didn't even judge the coaches. They could have been people that were clueless. I just saw, I knew I was good and I wanted to get better. And so when they said something, I saw it as an opportunity to try to get better. I saw it as an opportunity. Even when it was criticism, I didn't see it as criticism. And I think that's huge. As to perspective is everything in life, not just in sport. So even as we're talking about this, and I hear criticism and negative and positive, I'm telling you, when I was at my best and as I watched the best players, they don't see, when they're in their right mind, when they're in the best balanced position for their playing, they don't see a coach giving them advice, a coach giving them technical advice, a coach even being down on them as criticism. You see it as something that they see in you that you can do better. Do you see it? You see what I'm saying? I didn't feel the negative. Now, when I was at the end of my career, when I was really already struggling and having confidence issues, and what I see in young athletes that want to be better and don't think that they're there and are trying to get better and all of that, is when a coach says something that then it seems like a negative attack on you, and that they don't believe in you, and that they're just being hard on you, and they won't get off your back, and they won't allow you to just be free and play. And all of that came from just a perspective of who that is. So if you can get the mindset that this person is here to help you, that this person, no matter what their issues may be, they are doing their best to help you, it'll change the whole way that you see everything in the gym. If you can really get yourself in that kind of mode when you go in the gym, that the people that are speaking to you are just trying to they think you're awesome. They brought you here because they thought you were awesome. They knew you were going to be great for this team. They knew you were going to help this team, because that's the way I thought when I went into a gym. I thought these people brought me here because they know that I'm good and that I can help this team. And that's confidence. That's not arrogance. And I was ready to do that for the team. Arrogance is when you need to feel like you need to prove it. And so when a coach comes to you with a criticism and you're arrogant, then you say, I already proved to you. I'm going to show you who I am, and I'm not going to take your credit. I'm going to show you what I can do without you. That's where arrogance versus confidence comes into play. And so when I was confident, I could take criticism with no problem, because I didn't see it as criticism. I saw it as a critique to help me get better. Something that I can't see in myself to try and get better. Whether it was hard, whether it was negative, whether it was him yelling or screaming, it was just that he was passionate about me, passionate to make me better, passionate about our team, passionate about what he knew that we could be. That was it. But that was my perspective. When I had problems with myself, I couldn't see that. I saw this guy who was against me, who didn't want me to play, who didn't understand how good I was, who thought that I wasn't, and I needed to prove to him how good I was. That was my perspective. And so then came conflict, and then came defensiveness, and then came rejection of everything that they said. Then came the opposite of that is, if you don't go that way, then you go to trying everything that they're telling you to do, but overwhelmed because you cannot do everything, and feeling down because they don't believe that you're good enough and you can't do what they want you to do. And so either you're going to be the defensive one, where you get angry and you are defiant to coaches, or you're going to be the other way, where you just lose your self-esteem and you kind of go down, 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 and you lose being able to even do what you could do before. That's what happens, I see, with the criticism and I know that's not what you asked me, but I think that mindset is huge as to see it if it's positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
You know I follow you. So the question is whether or not everybody else is going to follow. And I definitely want to throw in there. So if we're talking about whether it's positive or negative, criticism inherently is negative, right? I mean, it's something that is wrong with something. So but like you said, how we perceive that is all that matters, because, for instance, we need to know from day one as athletes, we don't know everything. And there are so many opportunities for us to learn, and we need to be open to them. So I think it's going to go back to being open to things. It's definitely always going to go back to being confident. Like you said, it's going to be a recurring theme, confidence in this talk, but these are really important. But if you say, like, you need to expect to be able to be criticized in a few different ways. There are coaches that are going to criticize you because, for instance, let's say that your base, your fundamentals are not there. And they're going to say, listen, they're going to try and drill into you new fundamentals that you didn't even know. Maybe you're a great attacker in terms of your efficiency, et cetera, but you, an attacker, that could be, striker in football or volleyball. Sorry, I always go back to volleyball. But let's say you're doing a certain skill and you're doing it effectively. Well,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps you're not doing it efficiently, which means that you're going to cut down. And some coaches actually care about the life of a player's like ability to do something. So like, for instance, if you're doing an action the wrong way and you're
Mm-hmm.
wearing down certain parts of your body that are
Mm-hmm.
going to lead to overuse injuries, well, those are fundamental changes you need to make. So the criticisms can come in that way. Criticism can come in your interpersonal skills. Hey, stop getting on this player, or stop, talking while the coach is talking, or whatever. Stop being late to training.
Mm-hmm.
Everything doesn't have to evolve or revolve around skills with criticism from coaches. And I just want to throw that out there because it can come from so many different angles, because like you said, it depends on where your level is. And so if you're an amateur and you're dealing with things, you know what? There's a lot of stuff that's going to fly in that gym. But once you change to a professional level, it's not going to fly.
Right. Right.
Showing up late and it's kind of like, oh, you showed up late, you have a coach on one, is more like, okay, showing up late is like you maybe have the worst coach on one of your life, whatever punishment is in your sport, but you also have a fine, potential getting fired. You have
Mm-hmm.
all of your teammates who you just lost their respect because they're showing up because this is a way to put food on their plates, their sons and daughters' plates, their
Right.
wives or husbands' plates.
Or a president yelling you out and possibly cussing you out in front of your whole team. Something that would never be allowed, let's say at an amateur or a college, university level. That's not allowed. That's not, you can't do it. Well, when somebody's paying
Exactly.
all of the bills and their money comes from that, then there is no such thing as what's allowed. And so
Mm-hmm.
you could be in a situation where you're in a locker room and you're getting cussed out in front of your team because you did something, you made a mistake. And
Exactly.
something that you would prefer to be a one-on-one in which you think would be professional, that's not your choice at that time.
And just to jump in there, I mean, that's really, some people might be thinking from that perspective, Therese, like, ooh, this would be great to have this as a one-on-one. But some people are in the moment and like, all right,
Of course.
you're going to give this to me, I'm going to give this back to you.
Oh,
What
because I've
energy
done
I
that. That's what.
received, exactly. And so I think it's one of these things where the talk shifts to diplomacy, and you want to realize that. So if you're confident in yourself, right, the skills that you already have, the
Exactly.
things you know about yourself, if you're open to receiving new ideas, new perspectives, great. Third, I think it's really important for you to be diplomatic in your process of communicating. So instead of, having that resentment and being like, oh, was this it? Was this what you wanted? Was this the action that you wanted?
Are we going
You know?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, for instance, a coach saying, how could you show up late? And you go, well, I had, no, it's not the way to respond. Or a president screaming expletives at you for instance,
During
for
a
sure, if
game.
it's in a country, yeah, during a game, during a match, during whatever, it's how do you respond? It's how and when. And I think it's really important that as athletes, we realize that when we transition at every level, this is important. But you
Right.
need to recognize the situation you're in, the atmosphere you're in, and you definitely need to say, okay, I'm going to take whatever this is. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to look the same. I'm going to,
Right.
absorb this, and I'm going to deal with it later. I'm going to put it in this little area, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm coming back to that after the training, after the match, after the weekend, after the bus ride home where we just got yelled at for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
These things happen when you're a
Yes.
player, and you need to realize that why Therese said it happens is because these people are invested. They're invested socially, they're invested financially, they're invested
Right.
emotionally.
Right.
A passionate coach, his passion or her passion might come
This
out as
is
just screaming
right.
or
And a lot of
kick.
people, I want to say, like presidents and coaches, I teach with Connect with Your Gift. My whole thing is that people understand that their talent is not who they are. That's their way of expressing who they are. But most people don't know that. And a lot of coaches that you deal with don't know that. So they have built up who they are based on how you play, how their team plays. That's what defines them for themselves. And so you have to understand that you're dealing with people that are not necessarily perfect. When you were playing, let's say, in a college atmosphere, or those people have their job, let's say, and they recruited you knowing what they could do with you, and it's a little bit different of a situation, and that they're a little bit more secure. Okay. in who they are and in what they're doing, and everything is basically kind of controlled also by them, that they have their system, they get to kind of run the volleyball side of it, and they recruited who's going to be on the team and all of that. A lot of times coaches don't even they might get to pick some of the players, but a lot of the players, they might not even get to choose who's going to be on the team. The president gets to choose. And so, and then yet that they define themselves based on what they do. So you have to understand that there are some broken people that you're dealing with, and not take their brokenness on your back and carry it. He's broken. You know what I mean? Who does that? Who has to blow up at a player if they missed a serve and it was a crucial moment? That person's got some problems. So you don't take that on your back and carry it. And a great thing is, if you can learn, which I did not learn when I was playing, that's part of the reason that I do mentoring, and because I recognize things, hindsight's 2020, is that if you can act on who you are and not how you feel, that would be huge. If you act on who you are, know who you are yourself, that's that whole confidence thing, know who you are and what you do, and not necessarily how you feel in the moment with reaction to what somebody is saying to you. Because before I was talking about, let's say, legitimate, critiques of somebody, trying to help you to get better and whatever, and still how you take it from perspectives. Then there's the stuff that's just irrational, something that you didn't. Who doesn't miss a serve? That serve did not cause you to lose the game. I mean, there were points before that. If you lost the game, it was not from one serve. You have to know that within yourself and allow the coach, the president, even the other teammates to flip out. And you have to be able to know that that's just not true. That you have to know in yourself in order to be able to go the next day to practice, or the day after a free day to practice, and start with a clean slate, because you know within yourself who you are, and you don't act on how you feel, you act on who you are. That's a big one for life, not just for sports, for life in different situations.
Cool. Well, I mean, I think we've given a lot here, and we've pretty much gone over everything I think that we've wanted to go over. I definitely want to reiterate that when you're listening to this and you're an athlete who's trying to make the move from amateur to professional, you need to realize that a lot more expectations are going to be put on you, because now what got you by in college or as an amateur is not particularly going to fly as a pro, because there are people at the top of their game, like you were at the top of your game in college at the pro level. And so you might not be a small fish, in a huge pond right away, or you may be. But you have to recognize that these new expectations are real, and that these are people's livelihoods. This is your livelihood. If you want to have a career, you have to perform. At the end of the day, you have to perform. Your leash is not going to be long to screw up a lot, to have those bad matches because, you went to that party and you didn't recover in time to play, your best match of the season.
Yeah, that's something.
Every match of the season is going to be your best match of the season. So I love what you just said. Act how you are, not as you feel. If we go back through the things, can I recap some of them? And if I miss any, you jump in.
Yes.
So you want to make sure you see the opportunity of playing at whatever level you're playing at, versus the obligation to live up to whatever that coach is setting as a standard. If it's a more of a psychological warfare, emotional warfare type criticism, then you want to realize, who am I? Not how do I feel when this person is saying these things to me. To also realize that as an amateur, things are going to change as a professional, and there's going to be a lot more pressure. Your teammates are going to expect you, the fans, the coaching staff, the committee for the team, the owners, etc. Confidence plays a huge role in taking criticism and making advances technically, especially when talking about these little bitty technical enhancements. I love a couple here from Daniel Davidson. He says, it's the coach's house. Be prepared to try everything that they ask of you, but at the end of the day, you are your own coach and you are the master of how you play your game. And I really love that. There's another one that dealing with cultural differences. Some cultures are direct, blunt, seemingly harsher in feedback. Others are softer and more respectful of athletes. Do your research. If you're going somewhere new, talk to players, find out how that league was, how that coach was, how maybe that team reacts to losses, to wins, et cetera, et cetera. Do they go super high with wins and super low with lows? You need to be prepared for that. So then when it happens, you're not like, oh, this is my fault, you know? So, and then you need to know that coaches criticize because why? They have a vision of where they want the team to go, where they want you to go, and they're going to try and get that way. And it's not always going to be positive. But what we can do about it as athletes is we can control ourselves because we can't control anything else. And we can try to just move on. So thank you so much, Therese. Is there anything you want to add since we're wrapping up on this one?
Just really quick, just to always remember that the biggest challenge could be just you yourself, and not to put added pressure on yourself to be something that you're not. That remember that whoever hired you, whoever recruited you, they recruited you for what they saw in you and not what they imagined you to be. So as long as you go into the gym and perform your 100%, you're giving your best, then you're doing what they have hired you to do. And don't add any outside pressure, or mostly the pressure comes from inside, and that's where what happens is when we don't perform at what we are capable of doing. So always remember that what got you there is what you need to build upon. You can get better, but don't think that you need to be something more than who you are. They took you for who you are. So have confidence in that. Use that as your base.
Yeah. And the last tool I want to give is, like I give everyone, there's a breathing challenge. Meditation and being secure in your own mind in any kind of atmosphere is just the most invaluable tool you could ever have. If you can remain calm and focused during any situation, you have the upper hand, because that's what's going to get you through these tough times, through the great times. Because a lot of times you're going to go super high or super low. It's a problem because you create this imbalance. You want to be balanced, and you want to be ready for professional life, because you know what? You're going to have a ton of free time. You're not going to have all those classes. You're not going to have all these things going on. You're going to have your sport, and you really need to get okay with being inside your own head because it's got to be positive all the time. The self-talk's got to be great. So thank you so much, Therese. You can find Therese at Connect With Your Gift. Do you have any other ways to follow you?
Oh, we're at Twitter, Connect With Your Gift. We're at Instagram, Connect With Your Gift. And soon to open Retreat Tata. So Connect With Your Gift. So stay tuned, but connect mostly with me. Inbox me on Facebook with Connect With Your Gift, and I'd love to help you more with this topic.
Well, thanks so much, everybody.